Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back at it again with another brand new, spanking brand new episode of these Boss Babes Lifestyle Sports Podcasts. And I could not be more thrilled to have with me Ashley Marie Kelsey. And she literally is an MTV legend because she's a mama-to-be and a former reality TV personality. You guys probably know her from MTV's The Challenge and Real World San Diego. But before we touch upon all of that, she actually grew up right in Connecticut, which I think is badass because you guys all know that I am from Massachusetts. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Of course. So super close to me. Are you near Boston?
I am fairly close to the Boston area. So I'm probably I grew up 30 minutes from the city, but now I'm in a town called Amesbury. So I'm a little bit farther out, but I'm no more than about 45 minutes from the actual city of Boston.
I used to go all the time. This is way back in the day. I haven't lived in Connecticut in like literally 8 years. It's been a long time. But I go back, obviously, and visit my family all the time. But I used to go to Boston like every weekend because I loved it so much.
And so you grew up in Connecticut. I want to hear a little bit about your backstory. Where did you grow up? Was it closer to like the Rhode Island, Connecticut, Boston line, or were you closer to New York?
Which it's kind of funny. I'm actually equal distance from Boston as I am from New York. I'm in the northwest corner of the state, so it's tiny, tiny town, middle of nowhere. Like when I tell you tiny, when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, maybe." I'm like, "No, no, no. You can drive across the town in like 3 minutes flat. Like it's just very small." But I actually really liked growing up like that. Like it was close to everybody. Like we had tons of friends. Like like the tight knit kind of community that you don't really get sometimes when you're in like a bigger city. I liked growing up like that. I graduated with I think 79 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was super small. When I tell people that, they just don't really understand the magnitude of how small it was. But I love it.
That's amazing. I had no idea that Connecticut had such small towns within it because when you think of those New England states like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, for some reason, even me being here, I think of big towns and big cities. So I understand you also grew up with one brother. I wanted to describe for the listeners what it was like with that dynamic of having an older brother growing up in such a small town.
Yeah, me and my brother were close. We'd all go out together. He's 2 years older than me, so we'd always obviously end up at the same parties and with the same friends and all that. A pain in the butt because he was really strict. It was funny because you would never tell that he didn't drink, he didn't do anything, and I was just always I want to have fun and go enjoy myself. So he would come to parties and be like, no, 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 no. If he saw me with any type of alcohol, he'd pour it out and embarrass me. But it's just being an older brother. And looking back, I kind of like it. And I always wanted that. Now that I'm pregnant, I always wanted the boy first, so that he could protect his sister. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess things are gonna be a little different.
I think that is super cute. So now looking back at it, you and your brother sound like you had a fun, interesting dynamic. And now that you are currently pregnant, which we will be speaking about that later on in the show, I can't wait to find out if you're having a boy or a girl, if you are willing to share that info with us towards the end.
Everybody knows. That's actually how I announced that I was even pregnant, which we will get into that because I have to tell that story for sure.
Awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear all about the pregnancy announcement, but I just think it's awesome that you are excited to have a baby. And if you are having a boy first, that you having your brother, you're like, oh my gosh, if I'm having a boy and then I have a girl after, she can be protected by her brother just like you were. And I wanted to ask you, I don't really ask people this that often, but what was your favorite school subject as a kid? What the heck did you enjoy studying? I know that's a random question, but I wanted to know.
I actually really like history, and still to this day, I love learning about other cultures, and I love traveling. And anytime I travel, people are usually oh, I want to go to the beach and just relax. I'm not that type of person. If anything, I like to be active, but I like going to places with lots of culture. We're actually taking a trip to Italy next year. We were supposed to take it this year, but then I got pregnant and I was not traveling. And plus with COVID, you really can't travel anyways. Go to all the museums and see all the archives, and that's what I like to do. So history was always something that appealed to me. Remember that class, home ec? I don't even think they have it anymore, where you can cook and stuff, and they teach you how to be a wife basically. But,
yes, I do remember.
I loved that because we got to eat. So I was we got to cook fun things and eat all the time, and that's why I liked that class. But other than that, I thought school was kind of boring.
Okay, so home ec and history, two really good subjects. and birthday memory. So I want to hear all about this really awesome birthday memory. It sounds like your mom threw you a carnival themed birthday party. So like, how old were you? What exactly went on? Did you have like carnival animals and games set up?
My mom was big on like birthdays all the time. Like I'm big on all holidays. Like I love Christmas. I go full out. Like I love celebrating birthdays for like a whole week, if not a whole month, especially if it's mine. She would do like these extravagant parties, and like we did one year. I don't even know why she did this, but she did like a carnival. So we had like the face painting. We had a cotton candy machine and a snow cone machine and popcorn machines and like all that rented out. So she always made it like a really fun experience, which is why I like want to do that now for my child, because it's like, I don't know, I just like love having those memories from when you're little. And everyone also gets to enjoy that. Like all the neighborhood kids would come over, all my friends from school. So it's just like, it's a fun time.
That's a super cute memory. I'm so happy that I asked you that, because it's always interesting. People growing up again in like different cities, especially coming from like a small town, or if you're from like a big city, I like to hear like me, for example, my birthday's in December. So I used to always get super jealous of the kids that would have like the pool parties. I'm like, well, Mom, why can't I have a pool party? And they're like, well, if you want to put off your birthday for 6 months, all right, cool. I used to have to freaking either go A, to the movie theater and no one would be able to talk because it was always a snowstorm, or B, we would go ice skating at like the ice rink because again, it was always freezing cold because my birthday is 6 days before Christmas.
My friends like had a couple ice skating parties. Those are always fun. Like I don't know, I enjoyed birthday parties. So being a summer baby, I got the good weather.
You definitely sound like you got the good weather, especially if you were able to do the outdoor carnivals and whatnot. And funny family story. What was a funny family story that you could share with us, whether it be maybe from a birthday party or something that your brother did to you, if it was like a prank or like you guys went on vacation and something interesting happened?
I'm trying to think now, I don't know if I thought about this one. Okay. Well, I guess growing up, we always went to Florida. I don't know if you were like this with your family. When you're from up north, like Florida is like the jam. Like every year you go to Florida, go to Disney, like you need the warm weather, whatever. And I remember one year, so I was like this imaginative kid. Like I loved pretending that I was like, I had like my own grocery store. I had my own classroom. Like I would ride my bike around town, and I would go to like the, in New England, you have the hatchways in the houses to go into like the basement. And I would like pull up and pretend I was like at McDonald's. Like, I don't know. I did all the weirdest shit. But regardless, I remember one year I fell and like scraped my whole side of my face, and I was like, this is how, like I was like so young. I was like 7. Like, I can't go to Florida. I'm gonna look so ugly, like freaking out, you know. My mom's like, you'll be fine. Like, just go in the ocean, you know, whatever. So yeah, we went to Florida in the exact same time. She's like, I went in the ocean, like saltwater, like cleaned my face and like made it all fine or whatever. But Florida memories are always the best. I also remember when I was little, I was probably like 6. I went into the, I don't know if I was a little diva back then or what, but I went into the hotel room. You know, they had the Mickey phones in like the hotels, and I was like, I need this. And I like made my mom like buy me this Mickey phone. I used to do weird stuff like that when I was little, but I was definitely like the little queen of the house.
Super cute. I think that's awesome that you guys spent a good amount of time going to Florida. And you are correct when you say that if you grew up in the Northeast, Florida is definitely the jam and the vacation spot. And in the summertime, if you're from the Northeast, you're most likely either going to the Hamptons in New York or going to Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Did you ever get to vacation to one of those spots?
I did Cape like a little older. It was more like trips I took with like my friends, like in high school when I was younger. I don't know. My mom just really liked the warm weather, so I think she went down south before she was gonna go anywhere up more north.
You guys are now listening to Ashley Marie Kelsey. I am thrilled to have her on today. She is a mama to be. We are going to be finding out what she's having, and also you guys obviously know her as a former reality TV personality, very well known from Real World San Diego, and also she did a couple seasons of MTV's The Challenge. Sports. We're going to hop right into this. I know that you did not play any sports as a kid, but you danced. So what type of dance did you do, and was it competitive dancing or just for fun?
I danced since I was literally 2. I did everything, just jazz, tap, ballet. I really got into ballet. I did that for 14 years, was on scholarship, so I was really good. Really enjoyed it. That was more my avenue than anything. Sports, I had really bad asthma. So growing up, I think I just like, well, my mom introduced me to soccer. That was probably like the worst sport she could pick for someone with like severe asthma. So I remember she told me I used to sit down in the middle of the field and like pick flowers because I just was like over it. I'm like, well, mom, like I probably couldn't freaking breathe. Like I didn't want to run around. So I think that's kind of why I like didn't really want to play sports, is because it just like, my body just didn't really allow. I mean, I'm sure it would have over time, but I just didn't like it. But ballet I did love, and I love dancing. I still do. I used to take hip hop classes all the time when I lived in LA. It's always super fun. So hopefully my baby will want to dance too.
I think that's awesome that you are fully immersed in the dance world, and that's okay that you didn't play any sports. Obviously, you do have a competitive edge to you.
Cheerleading, I don't know. I wasn't like, you know, in the South, they do like the competitive cheerleading and like it's like super aggressive. In Texas and stuff, like up north, it wasn't like that. We just cheered.
You're right. Up north, it's more just like we're going to sit here and do the rah-rah-rah for the football teams.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
That is exactly what it is. Did you watch any sports for fun when you were growing up? And did you have any athletes in particular that you looked up to, whether it be female or male pro athletes?
I know that sounds horrible, but I didn't watch sports growing up. I mean, I watched my brother play and my cousins, obviously. And like, I think my brother played so many sports and I was dragged to so many. I was just like, oh, over it. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't my thing. It wasn't my jam. We also really didn't watch TV growing up, which seems, I guess, weird now to what people or kids watch in terms of YouTube and TV and on Netflix and all that. But we didn't even really have cable in our house, so I didn't know a lot of that world, you know? Like even with The Real World and like all that, like I had maybe watched random parts of The Real World going into it from like my brother maybe watching it every once in a while, but like I never even watched the show. I didn't really know too much about it, so. That's
actually pretty awesome because you basically got onto your season not really, probably, again, like you're mentioning, not really knowing too much about it, not really having a biased opinion. So you kind of just probably went on there and were just yourself. And you weren't trying to probably be anybody else. You were just being you. So speaking of the TV career, you just mentioned you didn't really watch much TV growing up. Nothing wrong with that. I feel like us growing up in the 90s, a lot of us played outside more than actually watching TV.
I 100% agree. Like things were just different. Times were different. Also, like, back then, reality TV wasn't like a really cool thing to do, or like people weren't trying to get like YouTube famous or like, you know what I mean? Or like social media fame or any of that kind of stuff. So when you went and did a show, half the time they found you, or like you happened to be at a random casting. A lot of times you weren't trying to actively go on a show, you know? So I think that you do get a little more like of that raw personality than you would when someone already has like a personality that they created for like social media, and now they're trying to do a show, so they're keeping it, you know, the same. I think it's a little different now.
That is actually a very valid point. Back in the day, the personalities were probably definitely more genuine, whereas now it's like everybody wants to vlog or have a YouTube channel, start their own podcast, and it's like, okay, well, you know, we've been doing this stuff for years.
Yeah, or it's just more raw. Like, you know, the thing is, going into The Real World, for instance, like I didn't know much about the show. It was the first TV experience I ever had. Coming from a small town, I was definitely very like, you think that you know a lot, but then you go into like a situation like that, and you're like, oh, okay, I was a little more like, I can't think of the word right now, but I have pregnancy brain, so that's probably why. Sheltered. There we go. Oh my gosh. But you're a little more sheltered than you think when you actually are in these situations and like experiencing things. And you also don't really know how that whole world works. And I've told people a million times, like, oh, is The Real World scripted? I'm like, no, they just literally film you 24 hours a day. But when the scripted part comes in is when they edit and you only get to see, you know, like a quarter of everything that was filmed. So I don't know. It's a weird world. You know about it, so you know how it works.
I definitely understand. And that's one of the biggest questions I always get asked is it scripted? And you hit the nail on the head. It's like, no, it's not scripted. No, they don't tell us what to say. But when it comes to them having to write a storyline for the viewers to watch, it's like the way that they edit it can kind of seem scripted at times. Going off your casting, I know that when you were in college, you saw a random casting call and you happened to go to it. Can you kind of describe some of that experience?
Okay, it didn't really happen like that. What happened was I was working in a bar in college, and they came in, the casting director came in the night before I was bartending and was like, oh, I'm here, we're doing a real little casting tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay. whatever. And I was in school, like, and I had been in school for 6 years. I paid for my own school. I worked full time. Like, and he was like trying to get me to go. I said, listen, I'm in my last year of college and there's no shot in hell I'm dropping out to like do a reality television show. Like, I'm just gonna let you know right now. And he like really wanted me to go. Like, the next day I had my manager call me and I was like, I don't know what it was. Maybe they were just looking for a token blonde. I don't really know. But regardless, I was like, I'm not doing it. So I didn't go. Like, I didn't show up. I didn't anything. And then fast forward to the spring semester, I had seen that they were casting again. And I had always kept in touch with him. He's like, well, you know what? Email me, text me, whatever. And I was like, I see that you're casting. Like, are you still looking for people? And they so happened to already be at the finals in LA. So what they do for casting, obviously you go through like steps or whatever. And he's like, do you want to, if we do like a quick like interview, like, do you want to fly out next week? And I'm like, okay. So it kind of like just fell in my lap. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a situation where I applied or went out there or even like saw a casting and showed up. Like, it kind of just happened to be there, but it was like perfect timing because then I had graduated. Because I was like, no, I'm not leaving like college to go and do TV. Like, not happening. I need to get this degree.
That's a smart move, though, that you decided to stay in college. And it's kind of interesting to hear that the opportunity just sort of fell in your lap. And I understand to you, you quoted saying it was so long ago, it feels like that it was a lifetime ago because your show was filmed about 11 years ago. Again, your season was San Diego. Your season was filmed and it premiered in September of 2011. I know this is just some random tidbits for the listeners. On your season was Zach Nichols, who's actually a friend of mine. It was on my season of MTV's The Challenge, season 26, Battle of the Exes 2. He actually just recently, congratulations to Zach and Jenna, just got married. And they have their actual wedding planned, I believe, for next year. It got put off because of the pandemic. And they are welcoming a baby at some point this year. Frank Sweeney was also on your season, Nate Stodgehill, Priscilla Mendez, and Sam McGinn. Sorry if I butcher any of your names, guys. I apologize. But I wanted to ask you, Ashley, what was your experience like having such a cool cast like that? And are you still friends with anybody from that cast?
Well, I talked to Frank, actually. I just spoke to him about a week ago. He's pretty much the only one that Sam, I do speak to time and time, like, she'll randomly reach out. I'll talk to her. I'll reach out, like whatever. But in terms of anybody else, I really don't talk to anybody. I think though it becomes like you're just so much older, and you have like, I don't know, you just have everyone has different lives, and same with like, it's kind of almost like a high school. You know, you're friends with like a lot of people in high school, and then you have your core friends you stay close with, and then some people just kind of like your acquaintance with, and you know talk to if you run into, and it's great to see them, and that's how it feels. It would kind of be fun to do like a reunion. I feel like. Because I haven't seen these people in so long. They should do reunions for all the different seasons.
That would actually be a lot of fun to do a reunion, maybe just even for like a weekend, get you guys all together.
Yeah, and it's like Frank, you know, is a doctor now, and like he's married, and he's looking into like having a child, and like obviously Zach is having a baby, and I'm having a baby at the same time. Like, that's crazy. And like, I live in Michigan too, and they live about an hour from me, so it's kind of crazy how like life just works, you know? Like, who would have thought I'd end up in the same state like 10 years later? I don't know.
Very interesting. It is weird how the world just starts to like fall into place, I guess. And like you just mentioned, of all the places you guys could be living, some of you live fairly close to one another. That's kind of how it is with me and some of my former castmates. It's like I could hop on an airplane or drive a couple hours and meet up with a lot of my castmates. It's interesting because you come from a cast of like 5, or in the case of The Challenge, where you have 32 people on your show, it's like almost in every state, you probably can say, hey, I know somebody from Florida. I have a friend in Michigan. I have a friend in New York. It's pretty interesting. It's like having your own little reality TV sorority in a way.
What's funny is I've met my closest friends from the show I didn't do a show with, never met through a show. They just happened to be affiliated, which is funny. Because a lot of people are always like, oh, did you and Tori, do a season together? Or how did you and Taylor meet? I'm like, we all met like through mutual friends or online, and we became close. Like, even with DM back in the day, like, we met after I filmed my first challenge. We never did a show together, and nothing. So the closest people that I am with, I didn't even meet by doing TV with them, which is kind of crazy.
Interesting how, again, everything like that falls into place, because just, again, you and I have never met before, but I have been following you on social media for so long, and I know that we have like a similar background, like both dating pro athletes, both being on reality TV. It's almost like you kind of, again, having that like natural sorority of having similar interests and backgrounds, you almost kind of like you know other people. Glad that we are connecting today. And I wanted to ask you, do you have any, like, again, I understand it was over a decade ago. What were some of your most fond memories from that season while being in San Diego? And do you have any like fun, wild party moments? Again, I understand it was years ago, but like what sticks out to you when you're on that season, when you're like, holy crap, I really enjoyed this?
We had a really great time. Like, I feel like sometimes when you film a show, they are more into the dramatics of it rather than showing like any of the really fun times, you know? We all took a trip to Cabo during our season, which was awesome. Like, it was the first time I've been there. And when you do things with a TV show, it's on a different magnitude, which is great. So we stayed in this amazing villa, like right on the ocean with like this infinity pool. We got to go ride horses. We did parasailing. Like, just, you know, you get to do it on a different level than if you went by yourself. So that was a really great time. Like, really, really enjoyed that. And honestly, just living in California, I always wanted to, and it kind of gave me the ability to try it out and see if I like it, and I really enjoyed that too. What else did we do? There was always so many fun things that we would do. You know what's funny is our neighbor when we filmed hated us, like didn't want us to be filming there and all this stuff, and people didn't realize this was going on too. So we had a lot of restrictions, a lot of things that happened. Like, they had to really get approved to film in San Diego for the second time. Like, they didn't even want us there. So, like, there's really a lot of restrictions. Our neighbor hated us. So we had, like, this really cool setup on our roof that we couldn't even go up there past, like, 9 p.m. at one point. So it's like we had, like, all these little things happen that was like, damn, like, we couldn't fully enjoy, like, just kind of, like, being young and having fun, you know? But yeah, so one of the best memories is definitely the trip to Cabo. But who wouldn't love like a free vacation on top of already kind of having a vacation? We're like already on one.
That's amazing that you guys were able to go to Cabo. And I find it really freaking interesting that you guys were kind of restricted. Hello, you're filming a reality TV show. There's like 5 or 6 hot young people trying to have a good time, and you can't even go on your freaking balcony because people are bitching at you guys essentially. Like, that's pretty wild. And I know you just mentioned that you guys were, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd season that filmed in San Diego. Do you remember the first season at all? Like, do you think your season was better? How does it compare to the first one?
I've never seen any of them before mine, so I'm not sure. And like I was telling her before this, and once our season aired, like, I didn't even watch it play on TV. Like, I was like, we were busy like kind of doing like a lot of media stuff, and we were traveling for appearances and stuff, and like if I caught it, I caught it. Like, my mom watched the whole thing, obviously my family, but I like didn't. So sometimes people reference things that happen and I like don't even remember, or like I don't even remember saying something, or like I'm like, maybe I should go back and watch the whole thing again.
Well, we will just say that your season of The Real World was definitely better than the first season at San Diego. Do you have any fun advice for those that are listening that might be wanting to know about how to get on a reality TV show, or what producers or casting people might be looking for? Because I feel like I get that question all the time. So what advice would you give to a young person in their teens or early 20s looking to potentially get on a show like The Real World, or Are You the One, or The Challenge?
Really think about if it's something you want to do first, because it comes with a lot. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad. But if it's something you really, really want, you have to just 100% just be authentic, be yourself, especially now. I think a lot of casting directors can definitely see through it, because so many people are like staging their personalities and what, like, who they are for the image that they want to create. So if you're just yourself, I think that they can definitely tell, but have a genuine reason for wanting to do it. Like, for instance, Survivor. I think that show is so cool. And like, Frank has always told me he wants to do it, and he's like the perfect person for it. And he's been saying that for like 10 years. Like, that's an authentic person that has been wanting to do it forever. Like, you know, would be really good at it. And so he'd be like a good person to cast. You know what I mean? Like, not someone that's just like, oh, I just want to be on TV just for the fame of it. That's not really going to work out. Usually you might get on, but it might not work out in your best interest. Do you know what I'm saying? So just be yourself, and just make sure that it's like a genuine reason why you want to do it.
That is some excellent advice. You guys are now listening to Ashley Marie Kelsey. She's been on multiple reality TV shows that have been on for like 20, 30, 35 plus seasons. So you know she's giving you some excellent advice. So if you guys want to try out for a reality TV show, please take her advice for what it's worth. Let's jump right into talking a little bit about MTV's The Challenge. You thought that you would just be one and done, but you ended up doing a couple of seasons. You actually won your very first season of The Challenge, and then you went on to do a few more. You actually won Battle of the Seasons, and that was filmed in 2012. And on your season, of course, was people from your San Diego Real World season. So what was it like basically competing with people from the Real World?
It was fun. You know, the challenge house is definitely a stressful environment because there's money on the line, and anytime there's money involved in something, everyone gets like really competitive, and there's a lot of drama. But other than that, like I've always looked at the show as an opportunity to travel, and obviously we won, and that's why I always said I thought it was gonna be one and done, because like we went in, competed, somehow came out alive and won, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna move on with my life. I think the Battle of the Exes that you did, like I turned down that one. And I turned down a couple of them just because they just didn't fit into what I was doing at the time or whatever. But the opportunity to do like a spin-off show, I mean, I did Invasion, and then we did the champs versus the pros. And that was my favorite season, hands down. Like it was just, we were doing it for charity. It was like a lot less stressful. It was in LA. We got to meet cool people. It was like not the pressure that was like a normal show. And it was just like a really good vibe. So I think that was definitely my favorite one. So I'm happy that I did come back and do a couple more for sure. But yeah, when you go and win something, I remember I was talking to Jamie Chung after the first one, and she was like, do what I did, go in, win, then do a complete career change and just like shift and do something totally else. And that's what I was planning on doing. But I guess an opportunity arises. You just do, you end up going back on it, I guess. But
And I think it's awesome that you guys won your first season, as you just spoke about. What did you end up doing with your prize money? Do you remember what you did with your split of your share?
I should have invested it is what I should have done. You know, lived my life. I had fun. I moved to New York City, and I loved that. I loved living there. I actually just used it for a really, really long time. Like the amount of years that I had that money is kind of insane. Like people are like, how did you keep that for so long? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm really good at just like being conservative with my money. But yeah, I wish, now looking back, I'm like, I should have invested some of it, but I lived a really fun life. Like I said, I lived in New York City for a year and a half, and then I moved to LA, and I lived there for 8 years. So I got the opportunity to definitely live out my dreams, which is all you can really ask for in life, right?
That's an excellent answer. I guess I was just curious because, again, having a similar background, on my season of MTV's Are You the One, we actually won prize money as well. I don't know how much your share was, but we won close to $50,000 after taxes. It came to closer to $35,000. So we got screwed, obviously, with the taxes. But I actually moved out to LA with some of that money and totally enjoyed experiencing that. So I totally get you using some of your money just to live your life and move to New York and have new experiences. What are your most fond memories from doing these multiple seasons of the challenge? I know you just mentioned that you enjoyed doing, I think you said Champs First Pros because that was for charity. What were some of your favorite countries that you got to visit? I know, for example, Battle of the Seasons, I believe that was filmed in Turkey.
Yeah, the first one was Turkey. We ended in Africa. Amazing experience, both of them. Beautiful countries. We had a lot of fun in Turkey. Like we used to go to this one beach club all the time, and it was so much fun. Then the second one we did in Thailand. The only thing is, like, I got a concussion in Thailand, like a really bad one. Like I still don't remember the day, like still to today. So I didn't stay after I got eliminated. Like I wish I had kind of explored more and like stayed for a while. And like me and Zach got eliminated together, so it wasn't like me and him were going to go on this like adventure and around Thailand together. So I wish, though, if I hadn't gotten injured, that I just had gotten to stay and explore the land a little bit more, which I didn't get to do. But what's cool, Thailand, we like got to spend, since we were flown in later, we got to spend like a week just hanging out at the hotel, and we went like downtown to the downtown like area and just like got to hang out with the locals, and like that was really fun. I like really enjoyed that.
That sounds like you fully enjoyed your downtime when you guys got some downtime. I know filming a reality TV show, there isn't that much downtime. And even when you get eliminated, like you just mentioned, you're either hopping on a freaking airplane the next day, or if you're not getting on an airplane right away, you have to do like a ton of exit interviews.
Like I remember I was so hurt that I left the elimination. So I got a concussion, and then the doctor cleared me to do an elimination the next day, which I should have never been cleared. Let's just say that. So I get eliminated, and I went back to the hotel, and I took a shower to go to my interviews, and I literally passed out because I was like, literally had a full-blown concussion. Like the PA had to come in and wake me up. She was like, "Oh, I think you have to sleep in our office." So I had to sleep in the office that next day, like so they could watch me all night long because like they couldn't just leave me in a hotel room. So I ended up having to stay a couple days later to do my exit interviews just because I was just so hurt. And that's the thing, it's like when they show on TV you getting kind of hurt and they don't really show much of it, and then they just show the doctor saying, oh, you're good. Like people think you're good. Like, no, I was not good at all.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like you got hurt very badly. I know a number of people from the challenge have either broken their wrists or broken their feet, or in your case, it sounds like you got a concussion. A lot of people can definitely get injured. And for those of you guys that are listening that don't know, we actually sign our lives away when it comes to our contracts because of all the dangerous things that could potentially happen. Speaking of dangerous stuff, what was your final like for your season of Battle of the Seasons? Can you describe like some of the crazy stuff you guys had to do with your teammates? I think Zach actually was one of your teammates for that season. And I think Frank was on that season as well. What did you guys have to do during that final?
Okay, so, oh my gosh, let me think back. So I thought I was in the clear. I like hadn't gone on elimination, and me and Frank had to go on the last one. Like after we already got to Africa, so it's like we're already thinking we're going to the final, and it was like, damn, okay. But we won that, obviously. Our final, like I didn't know what to expect. I really hadn't watched any of this. I should have done my research a little better going into the show, but maybe it benefited me not because I wasn't like scared of things. But because honestly, doing the second time, I like you can get hurt, and you're like, damn, like what am I to sign up for, So we had to run so much. Like our final was a 3-day leg. Like we had to stand overnight for like 13 hours and hold this stupid camel and like sit in this little like box. So it's like things like that. We had to run a lot, and I honestly hate running. I don't even like to walk. But like one thing about me that people don't know is that like I do things way more for others than myself. So in terms of like wanting to win, it was like I wanted to win for them, so I would do whatever. Like they're like, okay, Ashley, like you have to run for 6 hours straight. And I would just do it. Like I didn't complain about it. I didn't like, even though I didn't like doing it, I would just do. And that's kind of what you have to do in those situations, especially in the final, is just go for it and like not really like think too much, because you really don't know what's coming ever. Like every turn there's like something new. We had a skydive to start it. I remember Zach threw up, like he almost threw up on me because he was so nervous, and I'm like, oh my
gosh.
Yeah, he like projectile vomited like next to me. I'm like, okay, well we have to jump or go. And in my head I was thinking like, I can't say no. Like I have to jump in order for this final to start. So like I just was like, I'm just gonna do it. There's probably no better way to do it than on national television when they really don't want you to die.
Was that your first time ever skydiving?
Yeah, that was my thinking. I was like, okay. And that was actually really fun, honestly. Like I ended up getting the owner of the company that I jumped with. So it was really great. It was super like, he made it enjoyable. I don't know, like he let me like even like I was like holding the cords and like flying up there, and he just made it fun. So I actually was happy that we did it.
That is super badass. I love hearing that you guys were able to, although sounds like it was kind of scary for Zach, but I think it's awesome being on these TV shows because it's unlike anything most people ever get to experience in their lives. Like you just said, you went skydiving. You may or may not have had to eat weird things on the show, or
cow testicles. I don't know, just like random shit.
It is super random. I agree, because on my show I had to do some weird stuff too, but I guess it leads up to my next question. Again, I understand you are pregnant and you are with a great man. Would you ever compete again? Because I know the listeners are going to want to know, at some point, would you ever compete again? And I guess I asked that because Teresa has a couple kids and recently came back to a challenge after 7 years of being what we thought was retired.
I can't say I would, because I don't know. Like, I've never had a child before. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had a baby. I know how obsessed I'm going to be with her now, and like I already can see it, that I don't know if especially with my lifestyle, in terms of who I'm dating and like how it all works, like I'm gonna be with her all the time, so I don't know if I would have the availability to do it. I would say I would probably do a spin-off one. I was even talking about doing that All-Star one that they just had done, but obviously I got pregnant, so can't really do something pregnant now, can you? Because it's a shorter amount of time, especially if something's done in LA, you can bring her with you, and you can like have like my mom be there and stuff like that. I can't say, I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no, because you just never know. But like I said, at least right away or in the next year, I really don't even have that as an option, really.
I fully enjoyed hearing you basically methodically answer that question, because it's one of those things where you don't really know how to answer it. I know, it's like you have that mom brain right now. Right now it's all about like the nesting and doing everything perfect for that child. I totally understand. You guys are now listening to Ashley Marie Kelsey. She is talking to me all about the fact that she grew up in a really small town in Connecticut. She had a brother. They had a good bond growing up. Her mom threw her a sick-ass carnival-themed birthday party when she was younger. She crushed it on MTV's The Challenge, had a fantastic time doing The Real World San Diego. She mentioned that opportunity just kind of like fell in her lap one day while she was bartending. And at first she didn't even want to do the show. And then she ended up doing it. So I just want to say congratulations to you and everything that you have accomplished with reality TV. Do you have anything final that you want to talk about as far as reality TV before we switch over to Love Life?
Not really.
Yeah, I think you gave me a lot of good answers. So we'll switch on over. For those of you guys that may not know, in reality TV world, we all meet lots of guys and we all think that that person at the time is the one for us because you're stuck in this like bubble and you're like, oh my gosh, this person's the one. Just like me being on the show, Are You the One? But it sounds like Kelsey actually found her soulmate now. She is currently dating Detroit Lions running back Kerryon Johnson. And for those of you guys that may not know who that is, you should know who that is. So Kerryon Johnson played college football at Auburn. He was drafted in 2018 in the second round by the Detroit Lions. So I wanted to ask you, before we even get into like how did you guys meet and all that, did you get to attend any games last season or no because of COVID?
We did. There was a few that we were allowed to. I didn't go to all of them because I just didn't want to be honest with you. I was pregnant. I wasn't feeling good for the first 4.5 months that I was pregnant, which was the entire season. So I opted out sometimes, but I did go to a few. It was definitely a different experience than normal, for sure, when there's like only 500 people there in the whole stadium and it was all friends and family. So it was definitely way different than last season. But with that said, it was nice to be able to actually go since we had to watch most of the games from home. And it's like kind of sad, you know, when they have to play by themselves and it's a different atmosphere for the players. So it was nice for them to have their family there a few times.
I think once you have the baby, I think you're due. I don't know when exactly you're due. I know we're not going to talk about the actual due date, but whenever your baby pops out, hopefully you can bring your beautiful daughter. It sounds like you said daughter. You can bring your daughter to the games next season. 100%
be at the games. She'll be old enough, and well, it'll be as long as it's safe. You know, obviously, if like COVID is still like an issue, I won't be bringing her and putting her in harm's way. But luckily, like you know, we have suites and we have things that we can do for the kids and keep them nice and safe.
That is awesome. Congratulations for finding the love of your life. So let's hop right into it. Your first date, I understand you guys met randomly in LA. So can you kind of give me a backstory on that? And what was your first date like?
We were at an event in LA and I was just talking to his dad. It wasn't anything that I thought, you know, was anything. Literally, I was just like, okay. And then that night they all went out and he asked me if I wanted to and I was like, no, I'm good. Went home, went to bed, and he was with a couple of my girlfriends that he had already known, and they called me. They're like, are you sure you don't want to come out? I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then the next day, he was like, well, me and my dad are going shopping. Like, do you want to come with us? I'm like, no, I'm good. You know, I wasn't playing hard to get at all. I just, like, honestly didn't even, like, I was just kind of living, you know, I was just doing my own thing, and I just didn't think anything of it. And then finally, you know, he got me with the movie. He's like, do you want to go see a movie? And I'm like, okay, you know, I love the movies. Like, that's my thing. That's my jam. I'm like, okay. So that was actually our first date. Took me to the movies in LA, and then afterwards I took him on a full-blown tour of like Beverly Hills, like, and all, because he had never been there, and kind of like showed him around. We went to eat like at 3 in the morning because like obviously we went to a movie first, so it was like late, and that was kind of like our first like time hanging out, and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, you know, kind of goes from there.
That is such a cute story. It sounds like he was very persistent, obviously had some type of an interest in you, because we all know it's 2020. Well, now it's 2021. Most guys, if they're not interested, they just move on to the next one. And with you, he must have saw something that sparked his interest. And he's like, I don't care if she turns me down 50 times. I'm going to keep asking her out on a date until she says yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that. I think he just was intrigued probably because that's usually how it all begins, you know, just like some kind of like, ooh, I wonder about this person. Yeah, we really enjoyed hanging out. And so from then on, actually 2 weeks later, I was going to the Super Bowl because I worked the Super Bowl. I worked for a company called Panini. So every year we go and he was like, oh, can I come get you at the airport and bring you to like your hotel? And I was like, oh, I didn't at the time know like where Auburn or Alabama, like the difference in time and like the drive or whatever. And I was like, maybe, you know, I don't know. And like finally he's like, well, I need to know. Like he was like, this is kind of a drive. And I'm like, okay, fine, come get me, you know, whatever. So we ended up hanging out there too, and it kind of like just continued to go from there. And that's just kind of like, I think that's what I liked most about our relationship, is it wasn't something that was like we just met and like jumped into this like crazy serious relationship right away. We like definitely took our time. We dated for a long time, felt it out, made sure it was something that, you know, we were both ready for and wanted, and then decided to date, like seriously date.
That's awesome. I love that you guys are taking your time, and definitely sounds like it's for the best, because I think starting off as friends and then working into a relationship is the best way to do it, especially this day and age.
Like a good old school kind of way of doing it.
Definitely the fun old school way to do it. And speaking of old school, this is kind of like a random cute question. I'm sure the listeners would think it's a cute one. Have you guys said I love you to each other? And if so, who said it first?
Oh, of course. I mean, this happened years ago. But I don't know. You know what's funny is like Karen never even asked me to be his girlfriend. That's a little backstory. Like we just happened to like start a relationship one day, and like I was like, wait, if he called me his girlfriend or someone, I was like, okay, wait, well, I'm your girlfriend. Like it's kind of like one of those situations. I remember one day I was like, well, you didn't even. We were trying to think of like what our anniversary was, and I was like, well, you didn't even really like ask me to be your girlfriend. He's like, well, do you want to be my girlfriend? I'm like, I've been your girlfriend, but I don't know. It's just kind of funny. That's kind of like how things are with me and him. I don't even honestly remember the exact day that happened. Like I said, I have pregnancy brain right now, and I don't remember a lot of things. Definitely him.
That is super cute and super sweet. He sounds like an amazing man, and I'm wishing the best of luck to both of you. So you are having a baby girl. Congratulations. How excited are you to become a first-time mama?
Yes, I am. So yeah, we're having a girl. We're super excited. I mean, honestly, like a baby is such a blessing, and it's like so fun. It's obviously scary too, like with everything going on with COVID. It's like a situation where like you want to protect yourself a lot, and you want to kind of like, which made pregnancy be a little isolating, which kind of sucked because you know, you normally have your friends and your family around you all the time. You get to have all these fun, like I didn't even get to have a baby shower, you know, and it's like that. I don't care about the material aspect of it. It's just like fun to celebrate, you know, with people, and we didn't really get to do that. But besides that, it's like a really fun time.
Do you guys have any baby names currently picked out that you want to share, or are you keeping that a secret?
Oh, it's a secret until she's born, but she has her name. We call her it all the time. Very
adorable. So I won't poke the bear and ask you anymore. If you're keeping it a secret, guys, stay tuned.
Like I'm like trying to reveal it. That's the funny thing. When I was pregnant, I waited a really long time to tell anybody, and there was multiple reasons for that. But at the end of the day, like I remember I woke up on Christmas Eve, and I was just like, Taylor actually knew my gender for like months, because we found out at 10 weeks. We didn't, she did, and I remember I was like really sad. I don't know, you know, you have all these emotions when you're pregnant. I woke up and I was like sad. I was crying. I hadn't felt good in like a week. Like I hadn't felt good in like 4 months, but that week was like really hard. And I was like, I really just want to do this gender reveal. And I kind of at first wanted to like plan like a really like have someone come film it. And he was like, let's just do it. I'm like, okay, like why are we waiting? You know what I mean? Like, so we only filmed it for us, like just to have as a memory. Very awkward video. Like I'm like setting up, like we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're talking like regular, whatever. Because it wasn't a staged video. Like it wasn't set up for anybody. It was just like, we just filmed us doing it, you know? And we were so happy. And then like afterwards, Karen's like, I think I'm just going to post it. And I'm like, okay, like screw it. Like let's do it. So that's like how we actually ended up announcing. We just like randomly posted our video. Like it wasn't planned. Like the day wasn't planned. None of it. It just kind of happened. And like a lot of people had mixed reviews about it. I remember people were like, oh, he doesn't seem excited. Like he seems like disappointed. I'm like, listen, I'm like, we waited so long, like to find out. And like Karen really wanted a boy. And like, it was just like, I think any guy that wants a boy, when you hear you're having a girl, you're just like, oh no, you know what I mean? And anybody that says they aren't like that, they are, trust me. Whether they keep it internal or not, it's not that you're disappointed and you're going to be upset. It's just like you had a gender preference, you know? And I remember people were like, oh, well, he didn't seem excited. It doesn't seem like this. I'm like, that's just carry on. Like, he's just a chill guy. Like, he's not going to sit there and like jump up, and he's not that type of guy. You know what I mean? And like I said, that wasn't a staged thing. It wasn't something that we like had planned, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. We just filmed. So that's one thing that kind of annoyed me a little bit, because some people kind of like didn't get it, you know what I mean? But it wasn't done. I don't do things for people. I just do them to do it. Like, if I want to post a cute picture of myself pregnant, I do. Like, I don't take like weekly pictures because I don't want to. That's a little difference between me and kind of how I handle things. But
I think it's super amazing, though, that you guys are having a baby girl. And it's one of those things where I'm sure you guys will probably have more kids down the road, and maybe your next one will be a boy. And if not, you guys can obviously keep trying. For example, my sister, I know we just talked about her being pregnant. So my sister is pregnant with her first kid as well. She's having a boy for her first kid. And her husband literally cried because he wanted a girl. So it's interesting to see how, well, I'm not even making that up. He literally cried. They've been married for 3 years. They've been dating since high school. And they've had this name Emma picked out forever. Like, they wanted Emma. They're having a boy, so now they're naming him Ethan. But it's interesting to see how, like, the guy, I feel like, gets more bummed out about the gender than the woman. And the woman's the one carrying it.
it really is true. Like, whether it be like, oh, I'm super excited because I got what I wanted, or like, oh, it's different. Like he wanted a girl, you know, you never know. And it's just, I don't know. You don't really care when it really comes down to it. Like, all you want is a really healthy, happy baby, you know? But at the end of the day, like, if you want what you want, you know? For us, we're having a girl, obviously, and if we have another girl, we're not going to have any more kids after that. Carrie-Ann's like, I can't do 3. Because you never know. You could have a third girl, and then you're just like, ah! So we'll see what happens. We'll see what God has in store for us.
Well, congratulations to the both of you on having your baby girl be born at some point this year. And I cannot wait to find out what her name is. You guys, again, are now listening to Ashley Marie Kelsey, former reality TV personality, mama-to-be, and the girlfriend of, drafted in 2018, second round by the Detroit Lions, Kerryon Johnson. He is a professional football player. So congratulations to both of you guys. You guys are obviously a power couple. Let's hop right into charity involvement. I understand, obviously, pre-COVID and before you were pregnant, you liked to give back a number of ways on this Lifestyle Sports podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Baldi. You guys know that we love talking about how our sports entertainers give back. So, Ashley, how do you give back to your community? Or how did you give back to the community?
I mean, there's all different ways you can. When I was in LA, we used to do that. We used to hand out lunch bags to the homeless. Even it wasn't last Thanksgiving because it was COVID. So pre-COVID, I did a turkey drive with my friend. She has a huge organization in Michigan, and we gave meals for families. And there was over 500 meals. So we sat and bundled them and handed them out Thanksgiving morning for people to have like a meal with their family. So a lot of different ways that you can. Obviously, during this time in COVID, it's been a lot harder. And I honestly probably still would have given back because I had a lot of opportunities to, but I was pregnant and I couldn't really be around people. You have to just protect the baby at the end of the day. Like, this was who knew what was going to happen? People were really scared. So I kind of just stayed in my house most of my pregnancy. I still am in the house, obviously, right now. But yeah, there's so many ways that you can give back, and it doesn't have to necessarily be something big. I did want to do Big Brother, Big Sister when I was younger, but I didn't have a stable enough life. They said for me to, it sounds really bad, but I was just young, you know, and I was like filming TV, and I was traveling back from New York and LA, and they were just like, you know, you have to be here all the time for something like that. It's definitely something I still want to do in the future when I'm in one place for a really long time, because I feel like it's super important. There's so many youth that just need a little bit of guidance, need someone to talk to, even just someone to hang out, because they might not have that at home.
You are trying to stay as active with giving back as you can. Also understand you are highly involved in like fitness and health. I love looking at your Instagram. We're going to have you shout out your Instagram towards the end of the show. We are about to wrap up shortly. But if you guys do not follow Ashley Marie Kelsey's Instagram, you definitely have to. It's loaded with a bunch of amazing photos of her looking like the most fit, amazing, like sexiest pregnant mama I've ever seen in my life. So if you guys want to know how to look good being pregnant, go look at her Instagram. So girl, what are your fitness tips? Literally though,
Like,
share the tips.
I have been so like, I'm used to a workout regimen. Like, I work out every single day. It's been my thing since I was like 17 years old. I've loved it, love the gym, and I still do, but I couldn't work out my first trimester. I was also very, very sick for 4 months, like just very nauseous every day, had no energy. And then when I finally did, it's like I didn't have a gym to go to. And now that we're actually in Alabama, which is where we are off season, like I have a gym to go to. So I have been trying to train. I just do, honestly, what we do is we do one exercise, like a superset, and then we do a stretch. It's really important to stretch your body when you get really tight when you're pregnant. Like everything's just like heavy as hell, your back hurts, you know, whatever. So that's what we do, and I try to walk a lot. Like I always walk on the treadmill for at least like 20, 30 minutes, and then I go outside and do like walks because it's good to get fresh air. So I haven't really honestly done that much, and I don't want to say that I have and act like I've had this like fitness pregnancy because I have not. I'm just kind of it's my first baby, so I think like, you know, I haven't really gained that much weight. I'm staying pretty lean. I was always naturally really lean, but I also did have like a crazy fitness regimen going into it, so that could have helped too. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like I was said when I was getting pregnant, my mom's like, oh, you're going to work out all the time, and like worried about like, oh, you're going to train, and like, do you care about bouncing back quick? I'm like, no, I care about having a healthy baby and like a good pregnancy. So if that requires me to not work out, and like I can just deal with it afterwards, like I was okay with that, you know?
Are you having any crazy cravings right now currently, like chocolate or like seafood, or what's going on? Are you craving anything?
The only craving that I have is fruit. Like I'm obsessed with eating fruit. Like I could eat like a whole watermelon every day, I swear on my life. I eat like 4 clementines. I eat a banana every day. Sometimes I even eat an apple, like massive amounts of fruit. A lot of people that are having girls say they have the same thing. Maybe it's a girl thing, I'm not really sure, but that's like the one thing. I mean, the other night I was watching TV and like someone was eating pancakes, and I'm like, I really want pancakes right now. So I went and bought pancakes and like made them at like 10:30 at night. But like that happens very randomly. But in terms of really having like these crazy cravings, not really, just fruit.
That's a good craving to have, which is probably why you're also not gaining a ton of weight. That's amazing. And speaking of food, we're on the topic of it now. What are your favorite game day eats?
Oh, like if I go to the stadium, I always cheat and not eat whatever. So like I grew up, we had this amazing hot dog stand, like a New England hot dog thing. So I love getting those, nachos, pizza. I love the buffalo dip, you know, the chicken buffalo dip. I make that, and it's really, really good. I do kind of like spicy stuff, so I'm like really into that. But
Spicy buffalo chicken dip is always a winner in my book, and I totally understand the hot dogs, especially going to like Fenway Park or any type of sports game. And positive pop, Ashley, what is your positive pop? You seem like you have a very vibrant personality. I'm sure you have something positive to share with the Boss Babes fanatics today.
I just always like try to look at the best of what's going on in life. I was telling you earlier, in terms of positive, I try to look for any kind of positive right now because I'm just like reaching the end of pregnancy and all those things, and you're just like, if you're having a day, what I would suggest is just go outside and walk, like listen to some good uplifting music. Like I love gospel music. I think it's like fun to listen to. Like I grew up in church though, so that's kind of my thing. Yeah, and just do something that makes you feel happy every day. Write down your thoughts, like kind of stay organized. I think that's a good way to be positive as well. Just like have like a list of what you want to accomplish and just kind of go for it.
That is some excellent positive pop. And Ashley, I've fully enjoyed having you on this episode of the Boss Babes Lifestyle Sports Podcast.
I haven't talked this much in forever, and like when you're pregnant, you're like, oh.
Well, you are absolutely crushing it. And like I said, you look stunning. And I wanted to ask you, where can people follow you on social media? I know we kind of already talked about your Instagram, but if people want to follow you on social media, where can they keep up with you?
I just use my Instagram. It's just my name, Ashley Marie Kelsey. Luckily, I started early enough I can get my full name. But that's it. I mean, I post a lot on there. I haven't really been that active during pregnancy. Obviously, I used to post tons of fitness content, and I'm sure I'll be back at it like as soon as I have the energy to do so again, have the facility to do so. So look out for those, and all my mamas out there, hopefully you guys can give me some great advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I hope you have a fantastic summer and a great birthing experience, and congratulations to both you and Carry On, and I hope to chat with you again soon.
Of course. Thank you.